Starting. Welcome to the August 10th Conservation Commission meeting. Welcome, everybody. I'm still trying to remember how we do this in person. I feel like I got comfortable virtually, but I guess we'll start with the introduction of our members. And my name's Andrew Koff. I'm the chair of the Conservation Commission. Why don't we start down here with Bill and we'll go back this way.
I'm Bill Campbell, an alternate member.
I'm Tom Patterson, also an alternate.
Good evening, Nick Campion, voting member.
Good evening, Trevor Matera, Vice Chair.
Connor Madison, in between.
And I'm Julie Gilman, this Select Board Rep.
And Kristen Murphy, Natural Resource Planner for the town.
Okay.
If I can make a suggestion, these mics should be down close so that people can hear you at home, not for
Okay.
us.
So yeah, whenever anyone's talking in a meeting, we'll try and talk into the mic, including that mic if you're presenting.
Right.
We do have a virtual meeting going. We are now very multimedia here. I can manage the participant list here. If there is anyone, any attendees on the online meeting, if you would like to speak or make any comments, you can raise your hand electronically, and we will get you unmuted. I guess our first item is any public comment for non-action items. Is there any comment in the room or online? Seeing none, we'll move to our first action item, which is the NHDES wetland dredge and fill application for temporary wetland impacts and permanent wetland impacts within the tidal buffer zone of the Swampscott River for horizontal directional drilling beneath the river to replace failing sewer siphons in the J.D. Hill and Swayze Parkway areas as part of the sewer siphon repair and upgrade effort. And we have Britt Ekstrom, from Wright Pierce, and Paul from the DPW. So the floor is yours. Do you guys want to just introduce the project, or whoever?
Yeah, hi, I'm Kevin Garvey, also from Wright Pierce, so
Okay.
the intro. Do you guys want a half size of this figure?
A handout?
Yeah, same as this.
Sure.
Sure.
I know I can't read that.
About half of this then.
We do have, a lot of us have laptops with,
Oh,
is this in our packet? We do have a large,
Yeah, this figure was included within the wetland application.
okay.
As I'll just give a brief overview of the project. So as the summary had said there, the town had hired us to install one additional sewer siphon adjacent to two existing siphons. We did a condition assessment of that one pipe, those two pipes, we found that there was significant corrosion of it, pitting, and abrasion. And given that timeline and the different types of construction you could potentially use to cross a river, which are generally either open cut, trying to reuse an existing conduit, or drilling. We said at that time, since those pipes were in such bad condition, they could not likely reuse an existing conduit. So it was either then open cut or drilling under the river. And so we certainly want to try to avoid the open cut excavation where you would have to actually dig a hole through the wetlands, coffer dam the river, deal with the historic dredging from the Army Corps and all the other issues from that. So we certainly try to go with the least environmental impact. So the approach we laid out here is 3 new barrels. Basically, we're assuming they're going to drill from the Mills property side under the river, about 20 feet below the water, 20 feet below the sand level of the river, which varies below the waterway, and then coming back up right near the main pump station on the far side of the river. In general, we have a good amount of impacts that's related to temporary impacts mostly. So we need to relocate the sewers to basically get back to this new location where we're going to install our new siphon on the river. This approach allows us to maintain the existing siphons throughout the construction phase, so having to put in some sort of bypass pumping, all the way around the river through the main street. That's the hope to avoid. And then the other impacts we have are generally for just the things we think the contractor might kind of mess up the grass quite a bit with frac tanks and other types of equipment needed to maintain the drilling equipment under the waterways. So that's a quick intro on it. I'll let Britt get into all the fun stuff.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. My name is Britt Ekstrom. I'm also with Ray Pierce. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the impacts that we're proposing as a part of this project. Probably the easiest thing will be to look at the figure here to describe those. So we've broken up there's really two project sites for this project on one on each side of the river. So we'll start up here at the top. This here is the main pump station. This is Swayze Parkway running this way. The river's over here. And then this is all the grass area between the parkway and the river. So I've highlighted the 100-foot offset from the highest observable tide line with this blue, which actually that wasn't in your figures, but just so you can maybe see it in the figure here. This is the 100-foot tidal buffer zone limit. So the purple that we're showing, or blue, is all temporary impacts that, as Kevin mentioned, is area within the tidal buffer zone that's going to be impacted primarily just for construction equipment that's going to be on the surface, but might dig up some of the grass, or there might be some materials stored there. But there will be a little bit of excavation on this side to expose existing sewer pipes here, just to make sure that they aren't being impacted when the drill head comes underneath those pipes. And then there's a couple of catch basins within Swayze Parkway that may be impacted by the drilling, so we may need to relocate those. And then the actual drilling pit itself, because with the directional drilling, you have to have a pit on either side of the river, and then you go underneath. The pit on this side, the pit is outside of that tidal buffer zone, so that would be in this area, that grassy area there between Swayze Parkway and the main pump station. And then on this west side of the river, all of our impacts are proposed are temporary. We'll restore the existing cover. If it's grass, it will be returned to grass. If it's pavement will be restored. And all impacts are within the tidal buffer zone. There are no direct wetland impacts proposed. So on the east side of the river, point out a couple landmarks here to orient you. The river's here. The Exeter Mill building, apartment buildings here, Plums and Ponds over here. It's a little busy, but there is existing sewer infrastructure already over here. So we're going to be coming in with the new directionally drilled lines right here. And this is where that drill pit will need to be on this side of the river. So we'll be within that tidal buffer zone. And we've also, most of this area here that we've shown is for temporary impacts, again, for construction access, staging, frac tanks, and that would be restored to the existing grass condition that's out there now. Over here, this red area. The red area is the proposed permanent impact, and that is to maybe more formalize the gravel drive that's out there already, but we need to include a small access drive so that the infrastructure that's going to be installed as a part of this project can be maintained. And then there's also a couple little dots here. Those are for the manhole covers for the vault that would be installed on either end of the projects. Those are your typical manhole cover size, but we've, in working with DES, they've been clear that that needs to be considered a permanent impact, so we've shown it as such. And again, similar to the west side of the river, all impacts within the tidal buffer zone, no direct impacts. So I think with that pretty much summarizes the proposed impacts for the project. As Kevin mentioned, we've proposed this method to try to minimize impacts to the river as much as possible, and the contractor that does this work will be required to install perimeter erosion controls throughout the project to prevent any sediment from getting into the river. So with that, I guess I'll turn it over to see if there's any questions we can answer.
Does anyone have any questions? Bill?
You're replacing two 8-inch pipes, I believe, right? I couldn't find out how big the three pipes are that are going to be used to replace it. And what are the diameters of those?
I'm going to turn that one over to Kevin.
Yeah. There'll be a 10-inch, a 10-inch, and a 12-inch.
10, 12. So that's quite a bit of more volume for you.
Yes.
And I know where it ends up on the west side with the pump stations there. Do you have a new pump station, or I didn't go down to look, but will you, because you're going to the lawn of one of the apartment buildings over there, right?
Correct. So we're not going to have a new pump station. We will be on the lawn. The way a siphon works, it works on differential head pressure. So basically, the water will pull up a little bit on the mill side, and that will allow it to then push back through the other side of the river. And at this time, there's some surcharging with the existing pipelines. That's why having the added capacity for the two 10 inches and the 12 inch. And then separately, the town's also looking at potential sewer upgrades upstream of this. We want to make sure that this is sized to handle those loads also.
And will the pond handle more water or more runoff, whatever it is that will go through these pipes? Clemson Pond?
So the hope certainly is this will not end up at Clemson Pond. The town started by upsizing their treatment plant, then main pump station, and now this is the next pipe up. So main pump station looks at enough capacity to handle this also for most storm events.
Yeah, the pond is only emergency discharges.
Yeah.
So it's not
Oh,
part
I
of
see.
the normal flow of
Right.
wastewater.
So, I didn't understand that.
So this is all the sewers from the JD Hill neighborhoods, and it extends all the way to Portsmouth Ave, I think it said
Yes.
in the application?
Yep, the Portsmouth Ave.
Some of Portsmouth Ave, or,
Yeah, some of Portsmouth Ave is somewhere near the hospital where the split is, but then generally up towards almost up to the bridge where the sewer stops at that point. With the bridge for 101, sorry.
so like, yeah, everything closer to 101 drains through here.
Yes.
You may be hitting some invasives on the shoreline. I don't know that, but there are some along there. I don't know where you are or where you're going to be digging. Are there plans to be careful with those or remove them, or?
You want to hit that? I can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're staying on top of the embankment, so we're trying to stay out of the waterway. And so we're not really expecting to encroach directly upon the invasive species in this project.
And is that true for the knotweed? I know Mark Jacobs identified a patch of knotweed in his report. But I couldn't find the map to see where it was like B16 or something like that.
Right. I think all of our impact areas are really within existing, mostly on this side in particular, grass areas. So we really tried to avoid any impacts near the banks where those species are.
And no trees are being impacted within either of the temporary impacts or permanent impacts?
We are expected to remove one tree on the Mills property, and that property owner has asked us to replace it with, I forget whether it was 2 or 3 trees, but that's been discussed with the property owner already.
Okay.
It's this one, right?
And then near the main pump station, we were calling to protect all the trees. There's one tree that's near an excavation that we're calling to protect. I think there's another one, not as close, but still somewhat generally near. We just said protect them all as our intent.
Okay. Yeah, obviously, like running lots of heavy machinery next to trees, I mean, even if you don't impact the tree itself, but compressing the soil around them and such can damage trees. And I don't know, do you guys speak with the Swayze Parkway trustees? Is that the name of that group?
That is part of the project's intent, but at this time we have not had that step yet. Let's try and get through the permitting process first and then if they had any fine-tuned requirements after that.
Okay. Yeah, once you get your permits. Yeah.
So, on the west side, where the 277 Water Street is in the pump station there, are you going to be going down there? Would you be going under Swayze Parkway too, or do you have to dig up part of Swayze and then replace it?
We would probably be coming up in Swayze Parkway. Otherwise, it'd be too tough to really jog around the trees, and that gives us the chance to put in our access structure and connect to it with a small stretch of excavated by gravity stretch of sewer, just to make it a little easier to connect into it. But yes, we'd likely have to dig up parts of Swayze Parkway.
I was thinking the road itself. Do you go under the road, or do you go?
The road we're expecting to dig up, I forget the exact width, but a 40, 50-foot wide section of the road, maybe smaller than that.
I wondered, too, just this was kind of out of the blue, the select board has been talking about closing Swayze Parkway or not opening it up or whatever. Is that going to conflict with this construction? Do you know, Julie?
I don't recall the date that we're going to open it up, but it is going to be open to one-way traffic into
Yeah.
town. No, out of town.
But, so then you just close it down while they're working, I take it?
Yeah. Depending on how much space they need, yeah.
It looks like it'll cover the full width of the road.
Yeah.
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 Well, it certainly seems like a project we need.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're just commenting on their state wetland permit, so we can either, just for the commission, we can either have no objection, or we can recommend that we approve, that the state DES approves it, or they deny it, and we could provide any other comments or feedback we have on their application.
Should we go through those conditions?
I just have a quick question. That permanent impact, is that going to be like Queen Stone, or are we looking at gravel, or
On the.
for the access road? Yeah, I might have just missed that in the application.
I think that the town is still discussing that. It's on private property, and we're working it through an easement process right now.
Okay.
So the property owner will have a lot of say in what they actually want installed, because it will ultimately be left within an easement on their property.
Thank you.
Yep.
Just out of my own curiosity, could you describe the process of the drilling itself?
Sure. So they'll put a drill pit on both sides. They would go through, they would do test pits near all the utilities they'd be crossing to make sure that when they were diving down and under, they're not going to hit any of them. They would then run the reamer through, which is basically the drill bit piece. Drills to one side, they put on the other side. There's a little cone piece that comes in that has a drill bit on it, and they'd pull the pipe behind that, and then they'd pull that back on through, and they repeat that process 3 different times.
And there's no impacts to the river as you're going under it?
They pour like a slurry through there, like kind of an oily type thing to make it so it can slide through easily. And we're 20 feet below the river to avoid any sort of frack out, they call it, where it would potentially seep up. But we've talked to a couple of drilling companies, and we have our own best practices internally, and that is done to avoid that.
And you're going to leave the 2 old ones there, is that right?
Yeah, we would leave them there. We would probably abandon them in place with like controlled density fill, type of concrete, basically, or sand in it.
Right. So it wouldn't disturb.
And is there a lot of water that gets pumped out of the pits or the drilling? Describe the water management.
Yeah, so that's part of why we have a large area on the upstream side, is they'll go into a frac tank, where they'll then discharge from the hole into the frac tank, and then clean it to, we still discuss with the town the requirements, whether it's going in the sewer, or they truck it off-site as far as how they get rid of that material.
But it's not discharged back into the river or onto the ground.
Correct.
And it's a closed tank, the frac tank?
Yeah.
Yeah. We know there are flooding issues down there. I see in the application there's the 2070 sea level rise. I don't know if you want to touch on any sort of climate adaptations and how the sewer upgrades as a whole, or this piece of the project, have considered sea level rise, anticipated sea level rise at this site?
Sure. So I guess from a resiliency point of view, at the start, we switched into a more resilient material with HDPE. There was some corrosion in the previous pipe. So given that it's a saltwater environment, this will be more resistant to that situation. Anywhere in the 100-year floodplain right now, we're calling for watertight manhole covers. So there are certain spots we're not able to get up out of the 100-year floodplain. The main pump station, for example, is within the 100-year floodplain, and where we're using existing infrastructure on both ends we need to connect to. We did our best to pull out of the 100-year floodplain on the middle side of the river, but on the other side of the river, we are certain from the 100-year floodplain. And then additionally, the added capacity will, if there is any inflow into the collection system, that will also help alleviate any wastewater flooding that may occur from stormwater cross connections to the sewer system.
So, yeah, do you anticipate lower flows through this section after it's replaced?
I would assume roughly the same flows in the short term, and then potentially if the pump station improvements happen, maybe additional flows at that point or more development would occur.
Okay. Any other comments? I don't think we typically go through conditions on these. We just say if we have any comments, because this is not one of the CUPs where we have our own criteria that we need to go through. So unless there are any comments or objections, I would suggest that we have no objection to this application as proposed.
Well, their answers to the wetland permit application are pretty much, no, we're not affecting this, we're not affecting that. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. So I don't think maybe we have to go through them all, but they're all, there are no impacts on each one of these things. Is pretty straightforward. I just I don't know what you would call it, not really affecting the project, but under the mitigation, they're paying about $5,000 into the, what's the fund? ARM, that's right. And once again, I wish we had come up with a local project that we could be using that money for. This is just a comment. I mean, that's not against, for or against this thing. But again, we're missing an opportunity here that I wish that we should really take a look at that before the next project comes along. We've done a little bit of work, but it would be nice if $5,000 was coming to a project in town rather than just going to some project in the state. Editorial comment.
Yeah.
Quiet.
Well, I know they try to keep it regionally.
They do administer those monies as grants within the watershed. So when the grant application period opens up again, the town could apply and potentially receive those funds back and maybe more depending on what's in the fund at the time.
Yeah, it's not enough to do a lot, but it is something. And I know with Lindsay and Kristen and Trevor, right? You guys worked on developing a list of projects. And I don't know.
Yeah, so those were more focused on property acquisitions. So this wouldn't be in that ballpark, but it might be a good indication to us that maybe we need to sit back down and look at things like, I don't know, undersized culverts or something along those lines that, that are prioritized for replacement. Maybe we could have something like that.
A bigger range of projects.
Yep.
Not to stay down this rabbit hole for too much longer, but to Bill's point, I definitely think there is sort of a disconnect in the process there because we've had this conversation so many times where, these funds really should be looking to the actual community that they're impacting first before going to the in lieu pot, because while you're absolutely correct that, you know, it's that competition is broken up into regions, it's meant to go through a stepwise process of like, okay, are there any projects within the community first? And I know even personally, I've talked with Lori over at ARM and with different developers, and there's some kind of disconnect somewhere in that process, and it would be really nice to sort of have that hammered out so that, you know, at least at some point we can take a shot at those before they go off into the competition. But that's my soapbox for the day.
Well, and it's always challenging the timing of all these things, so, and I think that may be the issue. A issue with this is people, these types of projects happen on different timescales, partially.
I hate to continue down this rabbit hole. I am so sorry.
Please.
It also, as far as my experience with towns, it helps to have a project that you would like right off the bat. I've been to towns and they have gone back to me maybe a month later, and by
Yeah.
then it's too late. As you said, the project's already off the ground, so keep that in mind. Sorry.
Okay.
That said, I'd move that we review this application and have no objections to the application as proposed.
I'll second it.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Motion passes. So we will send do we need to sign something?
No, this is a major, so we'll do the memo.
We'll do a memo to Mr. Evan Lewis.
Thank you all, appreciate your time.
DES. And we'll be sure to CC the town and Wright Pierce. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And the colored impact, thank you. Okay. Moving on to item number 2. We have another DES, but a different one, minimum impact expedited dredge and fill application for wetland impacts resulting from roadway access for a 16-unit condo development proposed along both Tamarind Way and a portion of a cul-de-sac on Cullen Way. The project will include a total of almost 3,000 square feet of wetland impact, including 1,600 square feet of forested wetlands and 1,200 square feet of impact to an existing farm pond. We have Brian Grissett.
Hello again.
Here to present on this. Yeah, we've discussed this project and gone to a site meeting over the last 2 or 3 years. So it's good to see you, maybe for the last time on this project.
And we're not going to give you another major presentation.
Okay.
Basically, we're here tonight. We have the dredge and fill permit application before you. We've taken care of a couple administrative details, like there's a question regarding tax maps. Other than that, everything is the same. That you received all the testimony and all the documents. Minimum expedited permit.
So this is one we would sign tonight.
Yes. And what we're hoping for is that based upon your prior comments and our efforts, you will do a recommendation to approve. Because like you said, it's been 2-3 years and we'd like to move forward. But Brendan's here if you would like him to go through any overview. We have the plans that you contained in the packet. One final thing, as a side note, we plan on coming back for your September meeting to go over the conservation deed.
Well, that's true. We have to do that
Right.
too.
And, but we got the comments from the planning board, so now we're trying to get everything finalized there. So that's coming. The American Legion Post 32 has agreed, and they're very enthusiastic about administering the program for the veterans, the hunting program, and they're connected with Wounded Warriors. So that's the status on that, but we'll see you next month on that.
Okay.
I'll turn Brendan over to you, and
Well, and just to be clear on where we are, so last time we recommended approval of the conditional use permit for both the wetland and the shoreland permits.
correct.
And you have received those
Yes.
from the planning board. So you're done at the planning board level?
We're done. We received they approved both the CUPs, and we received conditional approval on July 29th.
Okay. And so
So
now you're
we're done
moving on
with that.
to the state approval, and then we need to figure out the easement for the land that's not part of the open space.
Right, the 31 and a half acre
31.
conservation area we're planning on deeding to you.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and that will be the last approval at the town until it goes your review, then town council review and selectmen.
Okay.
And then everything should be good to go.
But tonight, we're just focused not on buffer impacts or anything,
Nope,
just the
just the dredging
wetland impacts along the access road and the adjacent woods and pond.
Right, it's the 2980 square feet, half man-made farm pond, and we're utilizing the existing farm road, and then the other half is the forested wetland. So we did the minimization, the granite block walls, just had the arborist out, looking at the swamp oaks that we're protecting. So everything is moving along. So we're just hoping. If you have any questions, let us know.
Yeah. As far as the site plan in your packet, we should have one, or there's one here. I'm trying to just get my,
The only page that's different in the packet that you guys have is just the existing conditions. It was just updated to reflect the new lot that was created.
okay. Oh, the new lot, because you had a single family house that was,
Correct. On the
Single family lot.
26 acres, correct, or 24? Your original lot?
The original lot was a little over 24 plus
Yeah.
the 30 and a half next door. As part of the planning board meeting, the approval process, we did a consolidation, we did a lot line adjustment with the neighbor, so we could move the road off his property. And then it was a re-subdivision into the 4 lots, and 31 and a half to the town for the conservation. My house is approximately 4.5 acres. The lot next to it would be 1 3/4 acres. And then the condominium subdivision, this is 14 and a half. 9 and a half are the HOA conservation area, which will be maintained by the condominium association. And then the other 4, a little less than 4.5 acres is the road and remaining condominium and additional common area.
okay. And there's a pretty good, if you're looking on, it looks like we all are technology savvy now. It's 170, page 170 of the packet has the site plan that shows the proposed wetland impacts in the access road. And it's mostly next to Tamarind Lane.
Yes, that is correct.
And do people know where this is? Tamarind is off of Kingston Road, is that right? It's back behind Brickyard Pond, the ball field, behind the ball field, across from Brickyard Pond, which is also part of the ball field,
That was the 9.5 acres.
the 9.5.
That we
right.
donated 30 years ago.
And we don't need to get into that right now. So we're going to focus on these wetland impacts. It is an existing farm road, and it's a man-made pond. Yeah, maybe do you just want to speak a little to what these impacts are?
Primarily, it's for the roadway width. It's not, so it's just going to widen out a small portion of forested wetland is going to be taken, a very minuscule amount compared to what's on site. The farm pond is going to be filled, not just a small portion of it. It's a very small pond. I think when I was talking to Evan, I told him it was less than 10,000 square feet. So we're filling a very small fraction of that. It's not really going to affect the functions values of the overall wetlands themselves, being minimum impact and showing, and because Brian's moving forward with using the retaining walls to minimize these impacts, it's really preserving the remainder of these wetlands and their functions and values.
Are there retaining walls on both
sides,
edges
yes.
of the wetland impacts?
Yeah, where
The very dark boxes.
Uh-huh.
This is on the top, that's with the pond. This little sliver that's being taken off of the whole pond. And then on the south side, we're running the big block wall to preserve the swamp oaks on the opposite side.
There's quite a drop off from that, on that side down into the, yeah, if I
Certainly
remember
is.
right.
I think it's about
Yeah.
30 feet.
So-
It's about 12
Yeah.
feet is the largest section
Yeah.
from the existing grid.
Yeah.
And that's right at the road, and then is the road design,
So you're saying there's 12 feet of fill going in?
just in that first front section. You go to the page that's marked as the, where's the title? Plan and profile. You can see here that Tamarind Lane, you have the drop off, and then it kind of,
Yeah, I don't think we have that plan in our packet, but that's
I think-
okay, we can look at it there.
I thought it's the wetland impact plan.
172.
172? Okay, I'm wrong. There it is, thank you.
It just shows the steep topo and what kind of grade he's trying to follow in.
and here's the grade. To try to orient yourself, the two crossing black lines here are the new replacement culverts to increase capacity, and they're shown on the profile. Here's the structure in the middle. You can see we go down, and we're following the contour of the existing road. But basically at that point, just past the block walls, then the wetlands boundary actually goes farther away. So this is this little section right here and this little section here that are in highlighted are the two wetland impacts.
All right, and if we didn't do it this way, then it would be a much wider impact.
Yes, and the planning board did approve the waiver, so we have the 20-foot roadway instead of the 24 on that. There'll be no parking. And then once it gets past the wetland area, then it can expand out where the houses are. So we will minimize that too.
All right, I think we talked about that last time. And in terms of construction in the pond, I'm just curious about, there's no temporary impacts to the pond? You're literally, it gets like, does the wall get built? Or is there a coffer something, or,
The way that
or I guess you're not,
It's not.
you're not, it hasn't been bid yet by a contractor to construct, yeah?
no, but
Right.
typically they'll either dewater that section or construct the wall, the retaining wall, put in the fill, and then kind of let it remove their dam or structure that they're using.
Yep. Do we have any other comments? Or questions? Do we want to, is there any points in the application we want to go through?
I'm good because I've been here a couple times with
Yeah,
I've been out there.
Yeah, and we went through the functions and values of the wetlands last time, pretty in-depth.
yeah, okay. So you're looking, so we can either say we have no objection, but you're looking for a signature so that you get an expedited review.
Right.
Which would cut the
Yeah.
review time from
It cuts it from 50 days to 30 days.
50 to 30 days. 20 days on the line. Do we have any objections? We don't. Okay, so I guess we've reviewed this. And do we,
So in this case, it would be something along the lines of authorize the chair to sign the,
expedited
yeah.
wetland app? Does anyone want a motion that I sign the wetland, expedited wetland application?
So moved.
Thank you. I will second that, if I can do that. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, the motion passes. I will sign the, right here, wow.
The time you put in on this, I appreciate it.
Well, and we're not done, so,
Well, right. Today, we're doing, you still deserve praise, especially with COVID and everything else.
okay. This is gonna go right in tomorrow, I bet.
Sure is. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening,
All right,
and I'll see you next month.
okay. Do-
So just by way of deadlines, Brian, the submission for the next meeting is September 3rd. So
I
I need
looked it up
to,
and we're gonna be well into it.
right on.
And maybe, I don't know if you guys want to jam on the, like, well, we'll talk later. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Thanks.
Okay, moving right along. Excellent. Next, we have a recommendation to the select board on the Bauer land donation. Very exciting. Kristen Murphy, can you?
Yeah, so we were approached last, I think it was April, I'm not entirely sure, by, actually, I was monitoring conservation lands out there and ran into some of the family members of the Bauer, the property owner, Mrs. Bauer, and they wanted to walk the property and see what it looked like, and so I was able to show them how to get there, and we had walked the property, and I was contacted by the attorney of the estate. Mrs. Bauer passed away. I was contacted by their attorney, and they were interested in deeding the property to the town. It's a 5-acre parcel. Your packet includes,
Yeah, it's 187, there's a memo.
Yeah, your
With
packet shows where it is in relation to other existing conservation lands. So that's Old Town Farm Road. You could go down the Tomlinson-Kennick property. There are actually trails that take you toward the Bauer property. And then to the north, there's a whole connected corridor between Beach Hill Road and Old Town Farm Road. And then also your packet shows an aerial that gives you a sense for the amount of upland versus wetland on the property. It's quite a bit of wetland, but some interesting habitat features out there. So as part of the town's process, the requirements before the town accept any property is they need to get a recommendation from the planning board and the conservation commission. So I'll be going to the planning board on Thursday, and I'm here before you tonight for your recommendation in hopes that you would recommend acceptance of this parcel for conservation purposes. So this would essentially become a fee-owned property.
And we have some funds available for any incidental expenses or
There won't be
won't be any.
all of the recording and all of that is handled by the,
They're gonna
Yep.
do all of that?
Yep.
Oh, wow. Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, normally I'm not crazy about taking on a 5-acre piece, but it's next to land we already have. It just extends it. And I think it's great to do that. So I would make a motion that we recommend to the select board to accept this donation.
Seconded.
Okay, any other comments? Seeing none, I guess all in favor, say aye.
Aye?
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion passes unanimously.
We're burning through topics.
Excellent. So I guess just let us know if there's anything else. We'll do a memo to the
Yep.
planning board?
to the select board.
Select board, sorry. Okay. Great. I guess we're gonna move on to committee reports and the appointment of someone on this commission for the tree committee, which is a subcommittee of the Conservation Commission. Sally Ward and Ginny were both part of that. No, not Ginny, just Sally. And since she's not here, we should have somebody as the official Conservation Commission member, part of the tree committee. So, and same with the River Study Committee. Ginny, that was Ginny. She was on the River Study Committee. So we are hoping that we have some people here who may be interested in attending another meeting. Both are, do you want to maybe describe,
Yeah, so
give some more details on each position or committee,
Sure.
subcommittee?
The tree committee meets, they don't meet on a consistent day of the week, but it's generally an 8:30 meeting. And right now, the committee is focused on developing a town ordinance to guide the management, replacement, and upkeep of trees within the public rights of ways. So, street trees, trees on parks, parklands, with an eye toward encouraging native species where possible, and requiring that prior to removal of any tree, trimming tree, a person who abuts a public right-of-way would need approval from the tree warden, which is Jay Perkins over at Public Works. And so that's been their main focus. They also have been doing educational events. They were instrumental in getting Exeter nominated to the Tree City USA organization, so we are now a Tree City. Anyway, so that's the tree committee, and then the River Advisory Committee. Sorry, I have the title wrong. I was going by an old name. The River Advisory Committee advises the select board on matters relative to our rivers. Right now, their main focus primarily has been on Pickpocket Dam. We have a letter of deficiency on Pickpocket Dam, and so the town is wrestling with solutions to resolve that, similar to what we did with Great Dam. And so the River Advisory Committee has been working with Paul Velasich. They meet consistently on the third Thursday, I think it is, at 3. I put it in your packet, but, 3 o'clock, yeah.
This is I have to say, Mr. Chair, this is a committee that the select board are going through the different ones that don't have issues that come up very often. And the whole idea of what to do with Pickpocket Dam is kind of one of those. So there may be a move to change the schedule to quarterly or as needed. And the other thing is that since the emergency order was lifted, we all have to meet in person. But 3 o'clock is really odd time for people that have jobs. So at this point in time, 1 or 2 people can actually meet electronically, either by phone or Zoom. So that's something to consider, that if you want to be active in this, we can be prepared to make that happen without your physical presence.
So we can do virtual meetings for these subcommittees because they're not official.
No, those are official.
They're official.
The River Advisory Committee is a standing committee. It's not a subcommittee of this group.
Okay, it's a standing committee.
Yeah. And so one person, it might be two, but it's at least one person can call in. As long as their voice can be recorded, that's fine. You don't have to see their face. The tree subcommittee is anybody that wants to be on it, basically. And there doesn't actually have to be a member of this commission on it, but it would be helpful.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that.
So Dave Short did say that he would be willing to participate on the tree committee on behalf of the Conservation Commission if there wasn't burning interest among someone else. And I forgot, I had told you, Drew, that I would reach out to Don Clement. So Don Clement does attend the River Advisory Committee meetings monthly. And I was gonna reach out to him and see if he would do that with his Conservation Commission hat on, but I didn't. So maybe we
Okay.
can wait on that.
I might be interested in the river study committee as well.
Great.
I don't know if I want to fully commit at this point, but that is interesting to me.
I might also throw my hat in there, so
Okay.
just as a.
Maybe it could
Do
be
we,
like a
can we
rotating.
rotate or
You can.
can it be more informal?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, the goal is just so that the Conservation Commission is aware of what the River Study Committee is doing, and the River Study Committee is aware of what the Conservation Commission is doing. It's more for facilitating communication than it is any
Yeah.
sort of
The
balance of vote.
The RSAs actually have something about land use boards having, not having rotating positions. Well, no, wait, I'm not done. When like my serving here, conservation, I don't actually have a part of this Conservation Commission because I'm just a liaison. The RSAs don't call for a select board representative. The River Study Committee being our own making, it's not a regular state-run land use board, we could rotate along. We can make any rules. As long as they're recorded somewhere.
Okay. Okay. Is there any, so it sounds like we have some potential interest and we could maybe email about that for the next river committee, but is there anyone interested in the tree subcommittee? Otherwise,
Short. She mentioned Dave.
Dave, other than Dave Short.
Okay.
Okay. No one speaks up. Well, Dave is obviously
not
very
here,
well
but-
qualified as he is in the tree business. I would support him being part of that committee because he has a lot of good practical experience. Okay. So next we have a mowing proposal for our conservation land. So we have a number of fields that get mowed every year. I don't know if everyone's been part of this mowing, but we have a contractor lined up who's been a qualified contractor for the last few years and has proposed the same rate. And we simply just need to approve the expenditure of that amount for the mowing this year. He typically starts in September?
Yeah, late
October?
September, right before, I think, turkey season or something. So late September, right? Early October.
When there's a weather permitting, sort of. And in here, in the packet, or in the memo, for the last few years, we've only, the Morset property, which is the property behind the Y. If you go across the bridge, there's a field. We've only mowed half of it. And we've flip-flopped. And I think we've flip-flopped twice. So we may have mowed half and half. And no?
So we, one year decided to mow half, but then the other year we decided maybe a third makes more sense, so we mowed a third.
Okay,
So this is incorrect. This is actually a proposal for mowing a third of Morissette,
a third of Morissette.
not the third that was mowed last year.
And not the third that was mowed last year. And hopefully, and my math is
No, I haven't got it.
We're listening.
the sixth that's not been mowed yet is included in that third. Okay. All right.
Yes.
Pretty good.
And just by way of updating the board on that, it's actually been really exciting. So the reason we did that was because we're trying to promote plants like milkweed that actually take multiple years before they can grow and produce fruit. And as you know, or several of you know, in the Morissette property, several years ago, we hosted a story walk where we had seed balls of milkweed that were lobbed into the field by attendees. We had a small population of milkweed that was growing on the field edge when we were following our mow it once a year protocol. It was kind of getting overtaken a little bit, but went to seed the following year. And then this past year, I was blown away to see this massive patch of milkweed in the center of the field, which is great. So, and I don't have data, but anecdotally, it is incredible to see what this change in practice has done in terms of the species that are growing up there. So it's kind of exciting.
I want more seed bombs.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, we have a lot of milkweed there. I don't know that we need seed bombs for that property, but maybe for
There's
others.
other things, yeah.
Yep.
Were you able to identify any of the seedlings we planted 2 years ago?
Yeah, so I tried to get that done before I went on leave, but I was able to find, it did not seem as though the milkweed was very successful. So during COVID, we were able to partner with New Hampshire Fish and Game, had this grant for a boatload of plants, 700 some odd plants. A small group of us volunteered to plant them, and then we watered them every week for a very long time. And the success rate varies based on species. I did see bergamot was coming back, or Monarda, bee balm was coming back. There was penstemon out there, which is exciting, but I don't have numbers for any of that. But I left the pins in there so that third that hasn't been mowed will be able to go back and look. Pins where the plants were planted and get a rough estimate.
Well, I think it's great, some of the stuff that's been going on out there. Between that and the new trail that goes through the old apple orchard, I know that's gotten a fair amount of use and seems to be established. And that was Bill
Yeah, and
and
Carlos, yeah.
And, yeah.
Just a non sequitur, have you been on the Garrison, the trail that runs through Garrison Lane and then up into the woods to the Connor, not the Connor Farm, but to the Dolph Farm?
Dolph Farm, yeah.
Is that trail still?
Yep, still
Okay.
good.
Okay.
Yep, it gets,
Well, I'd make
it doesn't get a
motion.
ton of traffic, but it's good.
If you want a
Okay, good.
motion for the mowing, I would move that we approve, I guess it would be $15.75 for the Morissette and $500 for Irvine.
No,
Eight-
1575 total.
Total.
Period, full stop.
Oh, okay. Then I'll approve $15.75.
All right. I'll second that.
We get a pretty good deal from Dave on this. He tends to mow more than is there, which is good.
Or, yeah, he deals with the margins where if there's encroachment with woody trees, I know he's done a lot with that at Rain's farm and elsewhere. So, yeah, we definitely appreciate the work he does to maintain these field habitats that are important. Okay, so we need a vote, though. Is all in favor? Aye. Say aye. Aye. Okay. All opposed? No one. Okay, so that passes. Okay. L-chip? Grant, update?
Yes, except I forgot the date now. So I believe it's September 3rd. So we applied for the L-chip grant for range repairs, and we were notified, that the application was complete. And they scheduled our site walk with the decision board for, I think it was September 3rd, does that sound right? And so they're asking a small subset of people go. The contractor who prepared the historic assessment is available and will be there. And then I can't remember if it was you, Nick, or Don, or who, and myself, right? Or both.
I think it's Don and Nick.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Will be there, so that's really exciting. It's a great chance to kind of sell the project. You get a sense of their interest level, I think, when they're walking it. And last time, frankly, it was a little awkward when I was doing it because I don't have the building lingo, that the contractor Steve Bedard does. So I'm really happy that he's able to attend with us, and I think that's an important. That was an important inclusion in our contract with him. So fingers crossed. Yeah.
Great.
I got it as the 2nd, September 2nd.
Okay, thank you. Usually I write it down, but I didn't.
Okay, so that'll be September 2nd. So at our next meeting, we'll get to hear about how that went. But the decision won't be for a while after that.
Correct.
Okay. There's a note here about the Riverwoods.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's good that I gave you mine with notes. It's been a very long process, but the Riverwoods easement is being executed like any day now. It was all signed off. We have a copy of the baseline. Both entities signed the baseline. And so we will execute that before the next meeting. It's any day now, if it hasn't happened yet. So that's very exciting.
And so this is the wooded area around the
boulders and the ridge.
boulders, which is not the original Riverwoods, but the one
The one west of Kingston Road.
west of.
The
okay.
ones west of
Yes.
Kingston Road.
Near
Yeah.
Jolly Rand, so that's great.
Yeah.
All right, trails. I think there's some things to talk about with trails. Dave's not here. Is it in the packet?
I don't think so.
No. Okay. I know you posted about it on Facebook.
Yeah.
And everyone, there was maybe an email. Did it go to? No. Go to everyone? Kristen, why don't you talk about this since I'm not doing a good job?
Yeah, so Oakland's Red Trail, if you enter off of the Watson Road parking lot and head north from the power lines, there's a way to enter on, we call it the lower bog, I call it the lower bog bridge. I don't know what other people call it. And then I call the other crooked one the Dr. Seuss bridge. But the lower bog bridge has often seasonally been underwater temporarily, a few inches maybe here and there, because there's a very active beaver pond there. But it is substantially underwater, like upwards of a foot underwater. So the trail is impassable at that point. Dave Short reached out, I think it was on Monday. There was a lot of traffic on the Fort Rock Riders group, if you're a part of that, Tom, over the weekend, I think. And so he reached out on Monday, and I made up some signs to close it and post it on Facebook, and I'll be posting on the town's website a reroute. The challenge is this temporary reroute really is not easy. I mean, it's fine if you're on a bike, but if you're out there walking with kids, it adds like 1.25 miles or 1.33 miles to your trip. So it's not great, but we'll have to come up with an alternative down the road, because the fact is this is an active beaver pond. It's important that well, my opinion is it's important that we maintain that as an active beaver pond. We have a massive population of Blandings turtles out there. That was a huge part of why that property was conserved in the beginning. So I wouldn't advise trapping out, and that really is only a temporary fix anyway, but that's all decisions for you guys. But in the interim, the goal is to close the trail, and since it's not likely to resolve it, all we did was come up with some temporary signage. I laminated some arrows to direct people around it, but we did get, Toby Ferdine had a contact with, I think it was Sundance Signs, I might be making that up, but to design a more permanent reroute sign. I've not seen the design, but the estimate was up to $300 for expense. And as you'll see later in the agenda, we really have quite a bit of money sitting in the kitty right now. We've been kind of delayed in terms of we didn't have interns and some other things. So if we are spending money, we should do it, sooner than later. So is that all?
Yeah. Sounds good. So I'll motion that we approve $300 for signage, additional signage, trail signage.
You know the situation.
Seconded.
And it'll come from the
Conservation Land Administration.
Conservation Land Administration. Okay, so that was seconded. Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? No? Okay, that passes. There's certainly other, in terms of, are there other trail things? I had one that I've seen just because I live near Jollyland and I use this trail frequently. That trail we have not done any trail work to in quite a while. And there's a few muddy patches given all the rain. And I know there's other muddy patches and lots of other trails too, but it's gotten worse out there and it's leading to, when you have a mud, people are going around it. And it's leading the trail to creep and widen. So I think we certainly have some money, and if people come up, I know that we have a whole punch list of projects in Oaklands and for Fort Rock, but there may be other properties that are deserving of trail maintenance activities, and if we have spots for trail improvements, given that there's so much use still, it's a matter, we do have funding, it seems like, for lumber and things like that. We should maybe identify other spots that would benefit from some trail improvements. And I can think of a few. It would be simple, just sort of flat boards, just to get across these mud patches on Jollyland. That would, I think, get quite a lot of use and improve the trail out there for people and reduce the creep of the trail. So I could be game to do that later this year, and I guess I'm not ready to propose a dollar amount or anything, but I don't know if other folks have trail projects in mind that they've seen, or if people are watching and have ideas for trail improvements, they certainly can get in touch with us.
There has been a lot of talk about the Watson Road parking lot. As you know, a bit ago when they did the power line, power pole replacement project for that area, we did get wetland delineations out there. Unfortunately, there's a wetland kind of that constricts our ability to expand the parking lot. But maybe because of COVID or because of this increased use of our trail network, users are parking along Watson Road. It's a very dangerous curve in the road, and so frankly terrifies me. I've reached out to the police department because it's a very sharp curve. And so I don't really have a solution, but it may be, this would be a larger project, but it may be something that the commission should really think hard about, whether we could have a contractor do the wetland delineation for us, do a wetland application, and maybe in-house find some funds to, or find some way to do the contracted work or the expansion work. I don't know if that's something Public Works can assist us with, or if it's, how significant it would be. There is a bit of terrain out there, so I don't know what that effort would be, but in terms of safety, that's kind of an important one. And then, there's a couple more trail things to bring up too. But.
That's a good one. I don't park over there, so that sounds not good. And I know who would put up no parking signs or make decisions for the parking out there. That's not really is that our jurisdiction, or is that beyond?
I mean, I would think it would be the police department, and I would imagine the process would be you'd have to get approval to put no parking signs out there, and then enforcement. I did reach out to the police department, and Bruce Page said that he would be sure they did some patrols and get a sense of the issue out there. We've not reconnected about that, though.
Sounds very similar to the drink water memo that was
Yeah.
shared.
Yeah.
Almost identical
Yeah.
kind of concern, really.
Yeah. The reality of it is our trails are seeing more intense use than they ever have. Part of that might be COVID, part of that might be there are wonderful apps out there that tell you where you can go, so you don't have to be from Exeter. But unfortunately, property owners really don't have say as to what information is on those apps, so it just sort of self-populates, or I don't know what the magic is, but those maps tend to be more accurate than the trail maps that we produce. So there is kind of this looming issue out there, but Watson Road is certainly one, and then we can talk about drink water too if you want me to. If you want me to.
Do we want to talk about drink water? I don't know. Was that going to come up next month, or?
Yeah, I mean, we could certainly add it to the agenda. I guess I would be looking to the commission to get some input as to whether you feel it's important for it to have an agenda item. So let me, I guess, take a quick step back. The select board received a letter from abutters on Drinkwater Road over concerns about people parking along the road in order to access the PEA trails there, the Academy Woods on the west side of the road, but also expressed concerns about use of the Smith Page property, and parking was one of the concerns out there. I'll just focus on Smith's Page since PEA is not the town's responsibility. Obviously, it's PEA land. So some concerns that were expressed were, and this is not new, we've talked about this since before I even worked here in '08, but there were concerns about hunting, hunters coming too close to the houses. There was concerns about people U-turning and, driving onto the edge of pavement, causing the pavement or driveways to become damaged. And then homeowners then have to repair their driveway. Concerns that we would attract by doing any improvements at Smith Page, we would be attracting additional users out there when Smith Page does not have an existing parking lot. So by doing that, it sort of exacerbates the issues. So broad brushstroke, those were some of the concerns. So Russ Dean sent me that letter today, and I replied to him just kind of giving a little bit of a background. And I sent that to the board members. And so I didn't want to spend a lot of time tonight talking about it because it's not an agenda item, but we can, or add it. I think the better way would be to add it to the next meeting. But the reality is Smith Page, those two parcels were acquired by LWCF funds, which prohibit our ability to close them to the public. That's not an option. We're required to retain those as a public recreation area. And we have committed, I mean, I remember in '09 walking out there with Pete Richardson, talking to one of the abutters that we committed not to advertise Smith Page, but the plan is to put a loop trail out there, connect those two Ys, because there was braiding happening and people trying to connect those two didn't all follow the same path, and there's vernal pools out there, so there was concern. So in 2020, I had 3 volunteers who were willing to help, and we made that connection. And then Bill and Carlos came out a couple times, and we got it blazed, I think, is what we did. But and so now there is a loop. My position is that didn't, by installing that connection, it's not increasing the use. It's just ensuring the use occurs on a designated trail rather than bushwhacking, basically, between 2 trails. But that's my personal opinion. We've not held any events out there. We don't advertise it. We don't have a trail brochure for the property where we had in the past. It was a part of a multi-network brochure that we had produced, that you all had produced before, or I guess maybe Bill produced before we all were here. I don't know.
It's another place that could use a sign, but that would just encourage usage.
Well, we are required to put, we received kind of demerits this year because the LWCF sign is not in place. So when we met with them to walk the property, that was a critique of our management there.
It's a great piece of property.
It's a beautiful piece of property.
Maybe we should get our sign maker to make a nice cedar sign.
What about the person that's doing them for Toby? That the kind of sign that goes out, would be out there, is not the kind that the fellow I used would be making, you know, bigger sign. He does engraving on like 4, the kind of trail signs we put in the Oaklands and the town forest.
Does LWCF have their own
So
sign?
there is a prescribed LWCF sign
Oh,
that
there
we're
is.
required to put.
Okay.
It doesn't identify it as Smith Page. So we had a wooden
Oh, yeah.
sign out there that said Smith Page on the north
That's
side
what I
of the
remember.
fire pond.
Okay.
If we do that, that's one way to, as Bill said, the trails that we do advertise have the same kind of sign, similar kind of signage to each other, whereas this just has if we put up just the LWCF sign, it'll have a different look, and it won't be recognizable as town trail property, to me. A point.
So, I mean, I think there's, we'll see, I guess, where it goes from here. I did pull, I had included the PEA trail map on the town's website under the Conservation Commission Trail Maps page, so I did pull that as a way to not have yet another way for the public to learn about those trails.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my sense is we've done what we can do, and this isn't really it's not really up to us. The other concerns that were raised about parking and other issues are not for the Conservation Commission, because people aren't parking there to access Smith Page. So I would stay out of it as much as we can. If we want to talk about it more next month, we can. If we want to, I don't know what we could accomplish as this group. I don't think there's a lot for us to do. I think you did a great job in that email responding, so that was helpful. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe that's on, so we have some ideas, so we'll maybe next month, if people have we could look at approving signs and or lumber requests for trail maintenance for the fall. I think the drier fall period is a better trail work time anyway. I think everyone's sort of busy right now in the summer period. We might as well wait for when it's not 90 degrees and humid, like it will be the rest of the week. So, okay, any outreach events?
Just the October Rains stargazing event, which we talked about last time.
Right.
Still planned for.
Still plan for that. We seem light on events. I mean, we're still in a funny place, I guess, COVID-wise, so
Yeah.
I'm not inclined to do anything sooner than that. Would be nice to do another snowshoe walk at the golf course, but we can certainly plan that later. If there are any other events folks want to do, Nick, our events champion.
We do have some bat boxes remaining, bat box kits. We could host a bat box building workshop. That was fun. We'd need bodies to put it together and lots of screwdrivers.
Nice. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we wait on that one till a little more. All right, let's look at the budget. What do we hope to talk about the budget tonight, Kristen?
So I guess, every year I submit basically the budget, with some minor tweaks, the budget as was awarded the prior year. But we're developing, frankly, a history of not spending all of the dollars. And so I at some point, expect that the Conservation Commission budget will be proposed for being cut partially because of that. Just in terms of, tax frugality, I guess. And so I know that sometimes it's challenging to take money from one pot, we have the budget broken up into all these different pots. It's sometimes challenging, we might have additional trail projects, but we don't have trail dollars, or we might have, it'd be great that, we have this repair work at Rains, why couldn't we take this budget and put it there? And there's some steps that we need to go to. But if there's some thoughts on behalf of the commission in terms of how to shift the dollars to make it easier, I'd be happy to submit a modification this year.
So the major money we haven't spent in this year and last year was interns. Am I right in saying that?
Yes.
So
and
that
I
is,
think that's explainable.
that is very explainable. So it might be useful to look at how much non-salary related money we left on the table, and if we do want to, did we did a reduction last year?
We shifted from one pot to another.
We just shifted.
Well, last year, we sent back the intern money because we knew we wouldn't have them.
Oh, we voluntarily, said we
Returned
weren't,
it.
yeah. And the same is for this year. I like the interns because we keep adding properties and we have more and more monitoring needs, and you need help to get everything done. So they seem like an important part of our program.
I would like to leave it in too, for another year. I would think you could argue that because of COVID, we didn't have interns again.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the least of my worries, that one.
What about the part-time up above, where
I suspect it's less, I don't know if these numbers are just not current, but I suspect it's less because Daniel's not, that's for the recording secretary, and Daniel's not sitting in the meeting, so he's just transcribing from the video, so maybe that's why we have a savings there.
Yeah, okay.
So it takes less hours, I don't know.
He's good.
It's not mileage,
Good.
I don't know.
You like him.
Oh, good, yeah, good minutes.
Well, if anything, we should have more budget. I mean, we have more trails we have more trail users, we have more issues. So
Yeah.
while we may not be great at spending our money, that's our own problem, and I think we could argue that we should maintain it, and we should, I guess I would challenge us to, let's talk and try and figure out, so we do spend the vast majority of the rest of our money, and, because we do have lots of needs, I think it's just figuring out what they are and
Yeah.
creating the time to address them.
Yeah.
Well, what is it? We should take a relook at the master plan and see what that, I don't have it memorized, so, there may be something there that leads us to prioritize the things that we need to do.
Yeah.
I think the enjoyment of all the trails that people have had in this past year to get outside has put some emphasis on that.
And the reality of it is mountain bike community has been incredibly generous with their money.
That's
So-
true. They've self-funded a lot of the work out
And
there.
we're not really capturing those dollars in terms of reporting back, saying, yeah, we didn't, but we had this huge, massive donation. And so I feel like we're making progress. It's just, we're not telling the story very well.
Yeah.
How far did we get with the Rains project of cutting back the invasives along the edge of the property?
So David did not get it completed last year. He had some equipment trouble. And so he
Right.
encumbered the dollars in hopes that it would be done in the spring. It was too wet and we had some problems with that. And then we altered the mowing cycle. So he's waiting until after the second cut to go in there and do that.
But that'd be paid by the encumbered fund.
That would be paid by the encumbered funds. We could use some additional clearing along the stone wall along Newfields Road, I think, for improved parking there. There's some brush that's come down and some other things. I don't
Yeah.
know if that's something we could contract out, or if David has time or availability for that, or if others might, I don't know. But I would,
Yeah, could we just approve some additional funds to pay him to do that while it's out? I do think it's important that we maintain that access to the barn right now.
yeah, I agree.
What about
I
the
mean-
parking area up there that we were going to create too?
Yep.
Is that something we need to expend funds, or?
Not really. So Public Works
They're going to do it.
offered in-kind dollars, and that was part of our match for the L-CHIP grant.
I'd be in favor of asking Dave if he could do some more work and give us a figure, and because we've got $1,500 in conservation land administration. I think we could use some of that, couldn't we? And
Yeah.
if he's got the time and would like to earn the money, I think that would be very nice to keep that clear for the parking.
So are you saying cut the brush back or mow it regularly?
Well, cut the brush back to start anyway.
Okay.
Get it cleared, and I know we tried to get the state to clear the other side of the wall, because frankly, when they did it once, it's really a nice view. You have a nice stone wall and a farm on the other side. It really enhances the property. But I guess we can't force DOT to do that. Yeah. But I'd like to investigate what Dave might do.
Yeah, I would like to keep it open it might be nice to keep it open on the farm side of the stone wall. I don't know.
Do we need to just authorize, can we just ask Dave for a figure and?
So, yeah, I guess I have to think about the purchasing policy and figure out, are we adding the additional tasks under the same contract? And if so, are we tipping a threshold? But how about someone to do that? And we'll certainly see if Dave is available and others.
Public Works does that though with the engineering firm. They always going back to the same engineering firm, they don't put out 3 bids for everything. I don't know, we could ask about that anyway. Can't think
I
of
don't
the
know.
name.
That's
I
when
know
they've
when I
done-
bring a
Right
form to
here.
Dave to
Right-
sign,
No.
he
there's not-
ensures
Yeah.
that it has all of the i's dotted and t's crossed.
Well, sometimes it's because we've done a request for qualifications as opposed to an RFP, and we get the qualifications from the different firms and choose the one that has the best fit, not necessarily a quote for the job that is going to be done. And then we extend the contracts once we have them because they're doing a good job. So it's not that we just say, hey, they have it, they have it, they have it. It's because we know they're going to do a good job. And it's not, I don't know, adding work might be different, but we've done that too,
Right.
come in for it,
So I would love to learn
What's
that
the word I
process,
want?
and maybe I'll look into it further.
yeah.
Okay, yeah, let's table that one. So in terms of the budget though for 2022, is there, it seems like I don't have any edits I want to see to it, but we could, I mean, I would just maintain our budget as what it is, and it seems to work okay for us, but it wasn't there, I mean, there were reasons why we had these bins set up, and I know I don't love all the bins, but they were there for a reason. And we did adjust some of them a few years ago.
And I'll double check that the NHACC dues are staying like that, and if not, do you have thoughts of where you would want that if it increases, would you want me to pull from another category, or just increase
Yeah.
that and pull from another category?
Kristen, one thing under the explanation for community services, it says anticipated for 2020. I think it's 2022, just a minor.
Yeah, this is, I have not filled it out yet. This is
Okay.
just the base form, and they pull the information from an old one. So I've not, that's
Okay.
what we've used it for in the past,
Yeah,
but I've not updated any of the information there.
okay. Well, I think the budget's good as it is.
It's gonna be a weird year for us on the budget because some of like the education and training either didn't happen, or if it happened remotely, it wasn't as expensive, and a couple of things that I would have gone to in different groups just didn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, and totally tagging onto that, because I completely agree with Julie. Like, I look at this, but the last couple of years have just been so weird. And my biggest question that just sort of stands out in my mind is like, are there any red flags that, sort of coming through these just totally oddball years, we're looking and saying, but no, this here section here is a pattern. Like, we're just not spending this down regardless, even if we had like a quote unquote normal year.
Well, we started out from the select board and to ask the departments to just keep it flat because we didn't know what the revenues were from the state, which is actually zero. And so the same with the water and sewer grants we were expecting, that's also zero, so your water rates aren't going down soon. So we just asked everyone to keep it as tight to what the 2020 budget was. Yeah, this is 2021. And then we'll see what absolutely has to be raised for what reason, So it's going to be a lot of give us a good reason.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Thank you. That's helpful.
All right. We'll move on to the minutes from last month. I took a fairly quick read of these, and I did not see anything. Does anyone else have any comments on them?
I have one comment on the very end when we were talking about the dock for Sergio Bonilla. And the motion was to send a comment letter to DES, but I'm not sure there's any indication of what the comments were going to be. And I don't know whether we need that for future reference, whether Daniel could go back and kind of look to see or do we have a copy of the letter? Maybe that's all we need. And I don't even know if it would ever come up again. And I can't remember what our comments were at that point.
Yeah, we had questions about the flows and the anchoring of it and the construction of it.
Right. Did we send a letter to DES?
We did. So we
Okay.
could.
We could append that then.
Why don't we have it, we have him, yes,
Good.
to insert some of our comments regarding the construction and anchoring of the seasonal dock as proposed.
And then also, I just noticed it says virtual meeting under the date, so the header needs to be changed.
And I see a small typo in that paragraph above the motion.
Yeah.
It says "fi the dock" instead of "if the dock." So maybe you could run a spell check.
I just saw one too.
Hey, there was another one with it.
Oh, there's one tiny one under number 6, the approval of minutes. Mr. Campion abstained, and so the count here instead of 600 should be 601. At the top.
Oh, good one. Yes. Okay. I will move that we approve the minutes as amended in our discussion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I will abstain.
I'll abstain.
2 abstentions? Minutes approved. Okay, any other business? Kristen, anyone else? Anything we want to talk about?
I don't think so.
I'll
Okay.
make motion that we adjourn.
Okay, our next scheduled meeting's the 14th of September. Back to school and everything, hard to believe.
Ouch.
Submission deadline's the 3rd. I will second the motion that we adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.